Hey guys, what's up? iPenguinPat here, and today we're going to talk about the 2021 Archaeology Event in Forge of Empires. Some of you may already know, but this is one of my favorite events that comes around each year. I really like the minigame concept because it's a little bit more skill-based than some of the other minigames, and it's just a fun concept, and I generally like the design of the various buildings that come from this. The carousel, when that came out, it was one of the most amazing daily prizes in the game, and I went nuts. So hopefully this year there's something awesome to go nuts on too. So the new building is going to be the Ferris wheel, which when fully upgraded becomes either the Great Wheel or the Wonder Wheel. So let's dig into the stats a little bit more. We have a 6 by 4 building. Now the Wonder Wheel version gives us defense for an attacking army, and the highest age you're getting 32 defense for attacking army. You get 12 forge points and 20 goods and a solid amount of population and happiness to match off. Or we have the Great Wheel, which is the attacker version of this building. It's only 26 attack, and you get 10 forge points and 30 goods, same population and happiness and whatnot. So overall, just at first glance, not only is this building beautiful, and I understand the animation is terrific, but also the stats are awesome. How awesome are they? Let's consult the spreadsheet of madness and find out. Here you can see when we are sorted on a attack per square basis, and we are including road as part of that, the Wonder Wheel, which is the defensive version of this building, ends up being the ninth place for attack per square, which is absolutely awesome. Now the attacker version of this building, if you need to boost your attack, is only 1% per square when you factor in the road. It's not quite as good. It kind of drops it down a little bit of a tier, but overall it is still excellent. On top of that, the forge points per day for this building, and this should actually be 10, is also very good. We're looking at not quite one forge point for every 2 squares, but close, which is very good. And the attack per item is also very good. And what I mean by that is once this hits the antique dealer, or once this becomes a daily special, or just even as a great prize, you're getting 3.2 attack per prize, per item, or 2.6 per prize or per item. And that stacks up pretty well as far as buildings that require multiple upgrades go. So overall, I would say I really am excited about this building. This is the type of building that if the daily prizes are good, that you might consider spending diamonds to get. So let's look at the daily prizes and see, are there even daily prizes on here that make it worth spending? So as we have seen in most events recently, we have our Sentinel Outpost level 1, and we have the upgrade kit. That's double bonus. We have the carousel twice. Excellent. And then on top of that, we have our Shrine of Knowledge. We have our Wishing Well for our Wishing Well worlds, and Shrine of Knowledge comes up twice. And of course, we're going to have a rogue hideout in here somewhere, I'm sure. Yeah, there's the rogue hideout. Now, I do mention the rogue hideout and the Wishing Well and the Shrine of Knowledge, not necessarily because you need those in your building, in your city or whatever, but in the event that, say, the Sentinel Outpost and the carousels come up early in the event, or you're in a place where you don't necessarily need a bunch of carousels, then being able to use these Shrines of Knowledge or the carousel or the Wishing Well to sell those to the antique dealer can sometimes be your best use of currency. So that's just something to keep in mind if you don't end up getting the prize that you want. Let's go back to the spreadsheet of madness for one more second. I want to also point out, I had mentioned how this we have either 3.2 or 2.6 attack per item. One thing about the carousel that is really appealing is that you get a lot of attack on a per daily special basis, right? So like each daily special, you're getting a lot of attack for each carousel that you put into your city. So if you are an early on player that's just developing, carousels are going to be a really good option for you. Now, as somebody who is more developed and their city is already decked out, the attack per square on this isn't quite as strong as some of the other buildings that have been coming out. And it's definitely not one that as a very advanced player that you necessarily should be targeting. It's not bad, but as you know, in the mix of all the buildings that are out there, it's definitely starting to lose a little bit of its pep because so many other amazing buildings have come out since the introduction of the carousel. Now, along with the fact that we have, a solid 4 buildings that you definitely would be targeting between the carousels and the outpost, and then you've got buildings that you can sell with the Shrine of Knowledge and the Rogue Hideout and the Wishing Well. We also have a new thing that NO just introduced, and I have to say this is one of their best ideas in 2021. They added an alternate daily special, and it looks like this. Basically, each day you have a chance of switching the daily special and getting one of these other random alternate daily prizes. And of these alternate daily prizes, we have the Sentinel Outpost upgrade and the level 1 again. And we also have carousels again. So basically, every single prize, we have the Rogue Hideouts, we have the Shrink Kits, we have Shrines, we have it all, right? So there are so many things that I really like about the fact that they added this. First of all, it makes it so that each day there is a much better chance of you finding something that you might like and want to spend your currency on. It also makes it so that if for some reason you have the item that you're targeting, like I'm going to be going for Outpost in this event, if Outpost come up, both of them come up in the first 10 days, then the second half of all of my currency, I'm basically targeting stuff to sell to the antique dealer, and that kind of stinks. So I really like the idea that I'll have a chance to maybe get lucky on some of those last days of the event and maybe get a daily prize that I'd really like to see, even if it ends up being something bunk like a Tactician's Tower or a Globe Fountain. That would be awful. If you hit the alternate daily special and you land something that you really want, man, that's awesome. The other thing that I really like about that is it's really helpful for something like a Wishing Well world, where it's really easy for the Wishing Well. It only comes up once. You miss that chance. Maybe you just haven't had a chance to get through the quest line or something like that, and then you missed out on the event, right, for that particular world. So this is actually a really nice buff for Wishing Well worlds, in my opinion. So anyhow, kudos to NO on that. I give them a hat tip because I really, really like that. Now, this event has so many other ways. There's a bunch of other ways to win prizes as well. It's not the only thing. So just like last year, we have the museum, which is the same thing that we also saw in the Halloween event, where we have all of these quest lines. You collect these artifacts, I guess is what they are, and then you go through a little mini quest line, and when you go through it, at the end, you end up getting some blueprints, and I believe you pick up a couple of scrolls along the way as you complete each of these quests. So this makes it so that a very proactive player has the ability to pick up a lot of extra scrolls so that they can buy extra tools so that they can get further into the event. I haven't really gone over the event mechanics. I'll circle up on that in a couple minutes. So of the prizes from here, they all suck except for the Royal Marble Gateway. Now, this guy, as you guys probably already know, is one of the better buildings in the game. When we look at the spreadsheet of madness, the Royal Marble Gateway does fall in right in line with that Great Wheel. So the attack per square is very solid, and it's one of those buildings that will continue to get better as it ages up. And as a population junkie, I really like the fact that it gives population 2. It's a nice small building. It's just a good overall solid building, and I'm glad to see it there. Last year, I actually didn't get a single one of these. I'm totally bummed out. So I'm hoping that this year I pick up a couple. The downside on these clay tablets is that you're totally at NO's mercy, just like you were with the voodoo dolls from the Halloween event. Sometimes you get lucky and you get all of them. Now, one of the cool things about that, if you're not familiar with this mechanic, is that if you end up getting one of each of the tablets and you complete it, then you get a big old bonus. Where the heck is it? Yeah, this guy here. So you get the Historian reward, and that gives you 30 brushes, 10 shovels, 10 dynamite, and this funky avatar. That is the equivalent of, I think, like 2 large packs of tools, or I guess it's a little bit more. It's not quite 2. It's like 1.5. Regardless, that's a really nice haul, and definitely will make a big difference as far as how many daily prizes, how many grand prizes you get if you are able to complete that historian part. The next thing is they introduced another way to make prizes and to win prizes. And this is actually piggybacking off of the Christmas event where we had the calendar. Here we have the calendar again, And here you can see this is a circular calendar because that's how archaeologists do their calendars apparently. And here we have a spot for each of the 21 days of the event. And just in the same way as the Christmas event, this idea basically encouraging players to spend on a daily basis. And what that means is basically, as you go through the event on each day, you have a chance of getting I don't know what they call it. It's like the daily gem to unlock each of these calendar pieces. So if you miss a day with this daily gem, then you can collect 5 of these shards for the gem to get I guess they call it a joker gem or something like that, and that will fill in the place of a gem that you missed on the daily calendar. And with the Christmas event, that was just a really bunk deal. Like, it just really wasn't a very good option, and unless you were just in love with the portrait, there was not really any major reason to do that. But in this case, in this event, there actually might be a case for it. Let me tell you why. So my understanding is that the calendar and the daily prize don't reset at the same time. The calendar, I think, reset at 10 server time, and the daily prize reset at midnight server time. So what that essentially does is it makes it so that for one daily prize, you could actually cover 2 days worth of gems. Does that make sense? Because you would spend between the 10 o'clock and the midnight for the daily prize, and then you'd spend on the other side of that. Point being that instead of basically being stuck and tied into one daily prize per day, you can actually get 2 days from a single daily prize on this calendar. It's really confusing. Join the Discord, leave some comments down below, and we can try to explain it a little bit more carefully. But the bottom line is that it's a little bit more practical. So based on the what I've heard, it's pretty reasonable to expect to get about 20 shards as you spend all of your currency, which would account for about 4 of the Joker gems. And then the daily prize, if you do all of your daily quest, you can get these shards for your daily quest. So that can account for another 4. So that gets you a total of 8 Joker shards, which means you only need to get about 12 or 13 of the daily shards. That's definitely within range, especially when you consider that you can change your daily special. You definitely aren't in a position where you're stuck having to go for a bunch of crappy daily specials in order to complete the calendar. So I really like the way that this is set up. This is set up quite well. All right, moving on to the last part of the video, which is the minigame itself. So if you aren't familiar with this minigame, basically the idea is that you are working through a cavern tunnel thing, and you have to use each of these various tools in order to reveal prizes and stuff. I'll show you in a minute. So we have our brushes, our shovels, and our dynamite, TNT, explosives, whatever you want to call it. Now, as a general rule, you want to always buy this large pack of tools, primarily because it is the best deal. When you look at what this would cost to buy each of these individually, and even the smaller pack, the large pack is definitely a much bigger deal. It is a much better option. The other thing is that I also tend to only buy one pack at a time, spend that, and then buy my next one, as opposed to buying a whole bunch all at once. And my primary reasoning behind that is so that I spend my tools in a more balanced way. Sometimes you get in a situation where you just start, you might overuse one specific tool over and over again just because you have it there, and then that leads you to being wildly inefficient or just throwing your balance of tools off, and that's just not as good. The other thing is, don't be afraid to buy a couple of brushes as individual items. They are very cheap to buy individually, and it is worth it to be more efficient with how you get through the tunnel, as opposed to just cramming shovels and dynamite in every hole you find. So now what I want to do is go through some common scenarios that you'll come up against as you work your way through this tunnel, and hopefully some of these tips will help you to identify these common patterns and help you to get through the tunnel more efficiently. The first case is when you run up into a scenario where you have a wall blocking your progress. In this case, it would take 2 brushes to get around this wall, whereas one stick of TNT will get you both above and below that wall, and that helps to reveal more space and get you moving forward faster while saving the amount of tools that you have to use in order to get through. This next scenario, we're going to use a shovel and some dynamite in order to reveal a lot more space. Here you can see that if we were to try to use a brush, we wouldn't get very far. However, using the shovel reveals a whole bunch of squares, and then we can go back and grab this dynamite to reveal even more squares to both the left and the right. Those two shaded out squares were also revealed there to the left, so that made the use of the dynamite quite efficient in this little space. This next one is the demonstration of proper use of the shovel. Now, you may be inclined to want to use a shovel on this case where the idol's at the top, but by moving one extra column to the right, we actually get more information. We weren't going to get any information by using the shovel because the left-hand column was already cleared, so by going ahead and moving one more column to the right, we actually got extra information. This is another common scenario that we actually have already seen, where we go ahead and continue moving to the right instead of using the shovel on that first case that we could. And by doing so, it allows us to move past and use the dynamite to reveal the blocks that are there in the left or in that middle area. Here in a second, you'll see me drop that dynamite, and that's a much better use of tools in order to get through this little space. This is another case where moving forward an extra column helps us to get a lot of extra information. If we had used the shovel in that first column, we would have only uncovered one extra block, whereas in this case, we're uncovering 4 extra blocks. It's a much better use of the tools provided. At the risk of being a little redundant, I'm wanting to show you how many cases come up where using the shovel too early doesn't give you as much information. In this case, by not using the shovel in that first chance that I had and moving over that extra 2 columns, it allowed us to reveal that entire right-hand column, and that lets us see a place where we can be more efficient and maybe use some dynamite to uncover several squares instead of having to use extra brushes. This is a slightly different scenario where it actually made sense to use the shovel a little bit earlier on. Here, using that shovel uncovered 8 squares that were hidden. So even though I didn't actually get any extra information from the left-hand column, which is usually my goal, I like to get information from all 3 columns when I use a shovel, sometimes it makes sense to just go ahead and use the shovel. And then again, here in this case, you see I'm getting information from an extra 7 squares, so it made sense to use that shovel, and it put us in a great position to use dynamite and collect 3 items off of 1 tool. Here's another really great use of dynamite. Rather than having to use 2 tools to get around this wall, that dynamite allows us to go both above and below the wall, and it gives us a lot of extra information along the top as well. So definitely be looking for cases where you can use the dynamite to get around a wall rather than wasting a bunch of tools to get above or below it. Alright, last order of business. How many diamonds does it take to get a second fully upgraded Ferris wheel? And how many diamonds does it take to get the third and beyond? I'm going to answer the second question first. It should take roughly about 30,000 diamonds to get the third and beyond. That obviously will depend somewhat on your playstyle, how good you are at the minigame, whether you're going straight for idols or whether you're also picking up daily specials and whatnot. But 30,000 is a pretty good ballpark estimate. Now, the second one has a lot of variables and it makes it a lot harder to pin down. Did you get the mystery box from the previous event? Did you do the calendar? How lucky did you get with the items in the museum? Did you get that big extra bonus tool set or did you not? These are all things that can really change how many diamonds it costs. A good estimate would be between about 12 and 18,000 diamonds. I realize that's a pretty big range. It's almost a 50% range. It is a 50% range, but that's just how it is. So hopefully that at least gives you an idea of whether or not you want to go ahead and throw down some gems to get that second fully upgraded Ferris wheel, or whether you want to hold off for a future event. Alright guys, I hope this video was helpful for you for this event. They've added a lot of stuff since the inception of the Archeology event, but like I said before, this is one of my favorites and I hope you enjoy it too. If this video was helpful at all, please like, subscribe, visit Discord, and I will catch you